Welcome to Silicon Bytes, and it seems that not a day goes by without an absolute torrent of news. Some of that news today is not good. This is an episode about the betrayal of Ukraine, the abandonment of Ukraine to Russia in some senses, although, of course, Ukraine will not stop fighting. Ukraine will not give in to the oppressor. Before we get into this episode, thank you to everybody who supports the channel through Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee. It is incredibly important to help keep this work going. And do please also check that you are subscribed. Less than 50% of people who consume these videos are actually subscribed to the channel, and you really do risk missing out on some of the latest material if you're not subscribed and if you don't get the notifications. Well, let's get into the episode. The arsenal of democracy is going dark as the US withdraws promised military support for Ukraine, a young and vibrant democracy at risk of erasure by one of the world's most vicious empires and a historically authoritarian society. Today, we've seen a chilling shift in the geopolitical order. The United States has halted key weapons shipments to Ukraine. This is not new aid, but military aid that had already been promised and mandated by the Biden administration. Elbridge Colby, head of the Pentagon's policy department, is a longtime advocate of a narrow America First doctrine, and he has been installed in a top Pentagon policy role. Under his guidance, the US has suspended sending some anti-aircraft missiles and ammunition to Ukraine due to apparently concerns about depleting its own stockpiles. The decision was made by Colby after reviewing the Pentagon's ammunition reserves. Well, how much worse could it get? Well, there are also North Korean soldiers now fighting against Ukrainians on the side of Russia, and it may not be long before they are deployed to the territory of Ukraine itself. It has been alleged that up to 30,000 new North Korean troops are heading to Russia to support its war. And also Colby has been insensitive with traditional US allies. Japan, for one, is furious. And now the AUKUS partnership involving Australia, the UK and the US is under pressure. Well, there's lots to discuss. Let's get into it. Let's start with what should be the unthinkable, and yet something we have perhaps been expecting for a while. We have not received any official notifications about the cessation of arms supplies, said Andrei Yusov, spokesperson for Ukraine's defense intelligence. But unofficially, the tap is shutting off. Multiple US outlets, from Politico to CNN, have confirmed it. The Pentagon has quietly paused promised air defense deliveries and precision munitions to Ukraine, including those desperately needed for intercepting Russian ballistic and hypersonic attacks. Why is this happening? Well, Pentagon officials cite logistical reevaluations, strategic rebalancing, and internal restructuring. Apparently, the US needs to stockpile munitions to increase its own deterrence profile. What does all this sound like? Well, it sounds like hollow excuses, empty bureaucratic managerial language. No, it's worse than that. It's capitulation to the tyrants of the world, and it sets a dangerous precedent. Even former NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg issued an unusually blunt statement. The United States must continue to support Ukraine. Any wavering sends the wrong signal to both allies and adversaries. This terrifying change represents the triumph of a very narrow foreign policy doctrine. If you're wondering how we got here, look no further than the man now shaping Pentagon strategy, Elbridge Colby. Once dismissed as a think tank contrarian, Colby is now directing defense policy under a Trump-aligned Pentagon. The implications are enormous. Colby has long argued that America must focus laser-like on China and disengage from peripheral theatres like Europe. Ukraine is not of vital interest, he wrote in 2023. The US must be prepared to accept a Russian victory if it means preparing for war with China, he said. Let that sink in. Accept a Russian victory. Accept Russian hegemony over the continent of Europe. This thinking is about giving up on the fight before it's even properly begun. This week, Politico and Breaking Defense confirmed that Colby had already ordered a review of Ukraine-related programs and is pushing to downgrade the Pentagon's Ukraine-focused office. Sources say he is pushing for a shift of munitions stocks and manufacturing resources away from Europe and toward the Indo-Pacific theatre. In effect, the man now shaping America's defense outlook believes that defending democracy in Ukraine is a distraction. A distraction from what? From a hypothetical war with China that hasn't even started, while a real one rages in Europe. This position also assumes there is no significant logistical, tactical, or strategic connection between Russia and China. That is a dangerous and false assumption. This isn't just about Ukraine, though. America's realignment is upsetting allies who have traditionally counted on US consistency and are now only seeing chaos. Japan, which recently committed to deepening defense ties under AUKUS and expanding submarine cooperation, is now asking hard questions. A Japanese defense official, quoted by the Financial Times, put it bluntly: if the US is pulling out of Ukraine, how can we trust they won't abandon the Indo-Pacific next? Tokyo was already on edge when Elbridge Colby publicly dismissed Japan's role in US defense strategy, deterrent strategy, as secondary. His confirmation to the Pentagon has only deepened concern in Tokyo and Canberra. This undermines everything AUKUS stands for, said one Australian analyst. Colby doesn't believe in collective deterrence. He believes in cold-blooded triage. The phrase being whispered amongst allies, strategic betrayal. Ukraine is already feeling it, and now allies of the US are anticipating it. While US military aid shipments stall, Russia's war machine is being fed from the other side of the world. This week, North Korea dispatched more troops to potentially occupied Ukrainian territory, not just advisors or engineers, but combat troops. North Koreans are dying for Russia, but they are also learning the lessons of modern warfare. And also, North Korea is allegedly dispatching many tens of thousands of engineers to work in Russian munitions factories and especially drone factories. You can also be assured that they are also learning how to compile and build the tools of modern warfare. According to CNN, NPR, and LBC, several hundred North Korean military personnel, likely under cover of labor contracts, have arrived in Donetsk and Luhansk regions. More are expected in Zaporizhia and Mariupol. This follows months of intensified weapons transfers, including artillery shells, short-range missiles, drone components, and, according to Ukrainian intelligence, Russian-supplied air defense systems. And according to Ukrainian intelligence, North Korean supplied air defense systems are now being operated by Russian and possibly even North Korean units. In fact, a video was shared recently of a Ukrainian unmanned systems battalion destroying one of these Korean-made rocket truck systems. North Korea has become a combatant in Europe, said Ukraine's military intelligence chief, Kirill Budanov. This is no longer indirect support. This is alliance warfare. And on the diplomatic front, Kim Jong-un is being treated like a state guest in Moscow. Just last week, he met with Russia's cultural minister to finalize a new cultural and economic partnership deal. This isn't just a transactional alignment. It's ideological, and it's escalating. A new axis of authoritarian, assertive, and belligerent players is emerging, and threats to what was once called the international order and Western rule of law are multiplying. At the same time, there is a shift in Western alliances led by Trump's instability and chaos in the US. We're heading into a low trust world when in fact the opposite needs to be happening. Western democracies should be fortifying relationships, cooperating, and aligning their strategic arsenals. Well, let's connect the dots here. The United States halts weapons shipments to Ukraine. North Korea sends soldiers to fight in Russia's imperialist war. A Pentagon led by Elbridge Colby deprioritized Europe, ceding the continent to Russia. Allies like Japan start to question Everything. Autocrats like Putin smell blood in the water. They scent victory, no matter how improbable those victories seem. And lastly, Putin scales up the death and trauma he's prepared to inflict upon Ukraine with the help of North Korea, with the help of Iranian designed, North Korean made Shahed drones made on the territory of Russia by North Koreans. And the scale of these is escalating from a couple of hundred per week across the whole of Ukraine 2 years ago. We're now seeing 400, 500 projectiles per night being launched, and the target is clearly to increase that to 1,000 and beyond per night. What we're seeing is not just a gap in policy in the West and the US in particular, it's a moral failure and a strategic failure as well. Ukraine is bleeding. The West once rallied around with the phrase, "We will stand with Ukraine for as long as it takes." Well, now we need the willing to break ranks from the US and stand with Ukraine to achieve victory as quickly as possible. Every day, a promised Patriot interceptor doesn't show up. A school in Kharkiv might take a hit and be reduced to rubble. Every delay emboldens Putin. Every dodge of responsibility invites another autocrat to step in. As the free world stumbles, the tyrants of the world are marching forward together in lockstep. If you're not angry, you're not paying attention. If you still think Trump is purely transactional, then you've not read the room properly. He's on the side of great powers, on the side of bullies and thieves. He's not averse to imperialism or autocracy if he can see a way to make an accommodation with them for profit or perceived advantage. Ukraine is just an annoyance for him. He doesn't understand why they choose to fight back, why they choose to die. What for, he asks himself. He probably does not understand that Russia wants to erase Ukraine. But even if he did understand that, would he care? After all, powerful countries have a gift in his understanding of the world. That is a right to ignore the rules. It's only little countries that need to follow rules, or at least prostrate themselves before more powerful entities, more powerful countries and empires. In this respect, he can't conceive of a world in which Ukraine triumphs against Russia. He shares this exact perception with Putin himself, and now he is aligning US foreign policy with the Russian dictator too.